course, want to thank Dr. Bradshaw for working cooperatively with us to solve the concerns of the staff at one of his schools. We're on the way to resolve that rather than make a big deal about things publicly. I also want to thank the board for putting a change to policy JBCC on the table today concerning student assignment. For several years, I've come every year since the policy was changed to ask that teachers and other staff members be allowed to send their children to schools in a feeder pattern, so thank you. Our budget priority, of course, is the same as yours, to eliminate the calendar reduction days, and hopefully, as some of you pointed out this afternoon, may even get a 1 or 2% COLA. I thank Mr. McMahon for pointing out this afternoon that a starting teacher in DeKalb makes $40,000, in Atlanta $44,000. 12 years later, the teacher in DeKalb, after 12 years, is caught up to the first-year teacher in Atlanta, is making $44,000, while their counterpart in Atlanta is making $56,000. The liquidated damages of $750 really is a drop in the bucket when you're going to get a $12,000 pay raise. I understand Mr. Thurman's point about teachers abandoning their contract and violating the code of ethics, but what about the principals, the HR directors, the superintendents, and the boards of education that are also violating the code of ethics by hiring people under contract? If we're serious in DeKalb County, you need to go after the school systems who are breaking the code of ethics and get them on liquidated damages, and that'll put a stop to that. It used to be school systems respected the contracts of other school systems. Now it's a no man's land. I also want to urge that the salary cuts to counselors, many of you are not aware that 3 years ago counselors took an additional 11% pay cut over and above the furlough days. And that was deeply distressing to the counselors and very much hurt the morale. We'd also like to see the cuts in the educational media program to educational media specialists as well as media clerks be restored, because that's had a devastating impact on the schools. And last but not least, deferred maintenance. Deferring maintenance is really causing some long-term damage to the school system, and it's going to cost a lot more in the long run. And I also want to say the schools in South DeKalb are getting a bad rep because I spend a lot of time in the month of March every year going in and out of schools helping students with scholarships. I've been to MLK at least 10 times. I haven't witnessed any fights. I was a chaperone for the students in Athens that went to FCCLA. It was the most best behaved group of kids I've been to Athens with. We probably had several hundred children in Athens competing at the state FCCLA level. There's a lot of good things going on in South DeKalb, and we have to stop focusing on the negative and start looking at the positive. It's not as bad as everybody says it is.
Thank you, Mr. Schutten.